Hello, and welcome to the 2021 Controller of the Year Awards, brought to you by the Controllers Council. My name is Lindy Antonelli, Board Chair of the Controllers Council and partner with Armanino in our cloud technology consulting practice. Before I announce our 2021 winners, let's take a quick look at our agenda. There we go. So we'll go through the background of the Controller of the Year Awards. I'll mention our sponsors. And then next, I'll introduce you to our 2020 National Controller of the Year Award winner, Brant Kucharski, who will help me MC. Then I'll introduce you to this year's winners, including our 2021 National Controller of the Year, Brenna Albert. Like all awards shows, we'll get right to several questions, including audience Q&A. Attendees can ask questions via the GoToWebinar panel. We'd like to get as many as possible. Before we get started, a couple of quick housekeeping items. You'll receive a link to this webcast video archive via email within the next 24 hours. Finally, after the presentation, I'll circle back with you about some more information about the Controllers Council and give you a first peek at some upcoming events. Okay, next slide, please. There we go. So let me share some background on our second annual Controller of the Year Awards program, or what I like to call the Academy Awards of Corporate Finance. And FYI, this is the actual trophy given to our National Controller of the Year. Quite handsome, I think. As mentioned, this is our second annual event. We received more than 350 entrants from across North America. And through a screening and judging process, nominated 18 winners and runners-up. The categories include startups less than 5 years old, not-for-profit, small companies less than 100 employees, medium less than 1,000 employees, enterprise greater than 1,000 employees, and a National Controller of the Year from the winners of all categories. The judging criteria included financial performance metrics results, work experience, volunteer and charity, and education. Okay, so now these are some of the logos of our current Controllers Council sponsors that make programming like this possible. Blackline, Finance Operations Management. Sage Intacct, Accounting and Finance Software. Trintech, Finance Automation Solutions. Alliance Trade, Global Trade Credit Insurance, and Lease Accelerator, Lease Compliance Solutions. Now for the winners. This is a bit of an eye chart, but we wanted to show you a quick look at all of our winners by category. This is also on the Controllers Council news page, and you'll get it in a copy of this archive broadcast. Okay, so we'll take a quick look at this. So these are all of our winners, and we've got a few of them in attendance today. Okay, so before I introduce you to the 2021 winners that are joining us today, it is my pleasure to introduce a friend, a colleague, Controllers Council Board Advisor, and the 2020 National Controller of the Year, Brant Kucharski. Brant is Chief Accounting Officer at Ethos Life and former CAO of Grubhub. Welcome, Brant.
Hi, Lindy. It's good to be here. Hello.
Hi. Thanks for joining.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so I'll start with some of the winner introductions. So as I call your name, please turn on your camera if your camera is working and available. Okay, so let's start with our startups. So startup private winner, John Mazzanti, Controller of Cameo. Hi, John. Congrats.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate it.
What's up, John?
Thanks for joining us. What's up, Brant?
Now for our not-for-profits. Is Jessica here with us yet? Okay, Jessica McLean, CFO Controller of the Girl Scouts Nation's Capital. Jessica had a prior conflict with a bump up, so she may come on later. We'll keep moving on. And the runner-up of the not-for-profit category is Jonathan John Spackman, Controller at Brigham Young University. Hi, John.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure, congrats. So
Thank you.
exciting. Okay, let's segue into our small but mighty category. In the small private runner-up, Jason Lin, Controller CFO of Centage. Hi, Jason. Congrats and thanks for joining.
Hey, everyone. Thank you. Great to be here.
Now, moving up to the medium category. Medium public winner, Paul Henderson, Global Controller at Tipalti. Hi, Paul.
Hi,
Congrats.
great to be here. Thanks.
Yes, for sure. And then our medium public runner-up, John Steinmetz, VP Controller at Chesapeake Utilities. John, if you're able to join, turn your camera on. Otherwise, maybe we can hear you. Okay, yeah, maybe he's got an error. Okay, medium private runner-up is Zach Blaine, VP and Controller at Expel Inc. Zach, if you're able to join, come on up. Okay, and our government winner, Nita Nigam, Assistant CFO of Accounting for HUD, Housing and Urban Development. Congrats, Nita.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Thanks for joining. Great to see you. Oh, I just think it's so much fun and exciting and an honor to be part of such a talented panelist of folks here. So congratulations. There's Jessica. Hi, Jessica. Glad you could join. Congrats. And finally, our enterprise public winner, Brenna Albert, EVP Controller of Cresco Labs. Brenna, we're going to circle back to you in a bit with Brant. So just stay tuned. So today we have about half of our 18 winners on our virtual event. And I'm so glad because I'm going to ask each of you a couple of questions today, depending upon the time, just like our Academy Awards. So we've got a couple questions if we want to pop those up on the screen. I think it's the next slide. Okay. So I'll just, the way I'm seeing you right to left, I'll start with Jessica. Jessica, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your career path?
Sure, absolutely. And thank you, Linda, for this opportunity. And also congratulations to the other winners as well. I would say my background is I spent about a little over 10 years in public accounting as an auditor in multiple public accounting firms. And a few years ago decided to transition out and do something a bit different and worked with a headhunter to land a controller position with a nonprofit. Spent there about 18 months. I think I started it 3 weeks before COVID hit. So that was very interesting, and taking on a new job, and then 3 weeks later, you're completely remote with a new team, new work environment, new industry. But I made it through and I prospered. Currently, I am the Chief Financial Officer for Girl Scouts Nations Capital, and I started that role back in October. And also, I'll say in my spare time outside of family, I was teaching a Master's of Accounting course with Nichols College as well as a part-time adjunct professor.
Wow, got a lot going on your plate there. So that's exciting and what a great opportunity. So I'll just go around and ask everybody first to tell us a little bit about your background and your career path. Nita, I see you next. You want to tell our audience?
Sure. I actually graduated with a bachelor's in science from Seton Hall University. And well, you know, I really like science, but then I liked math probably better than science. So I ended up getting a master's of business administration with a concentration in finance. So I actually started with HUD back in like 1992 as a budget analyst there in their budget office. So I really had liked working with numbers, and I loved working in budget, and I was in the budget office for about 18 years. Then I switched over to accounting, and I liked it even more. And I've been in accounting for about 11 years or so.
Great. Well, thank you. And Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and career path?
Yeah, thanks, Lindy. I, like many others, started in public accounting. Spent a few years there and decided to go back to school and get my MBA. And you know, the hours required to put into that effort and public accounting kind of don't mix very well together. So I got into industry and worked in healthcare accounting for about 7 years. Moved out to California and got into technology, and then spent about the next 12 years running global revenue teams and became well-versed in revenue accounting. And then I got to a point in my career where I was either going to keep doing revenue or I could go back into a broader role. And so several years ago, I got back into the broader controller's role, and I love doing it for. I usually go into companies when they're around Series B fundraising, and I help build the infrastructure and put in the accounting systems and policies and processes and build the team, and that's what I love to do.
Great. Well, thank you. Jason, I see you next.
Yeah, great. Thanks again, and congratulations to everyone. So my background's a little bit different. I came up the FP&A career path. So I started my career at Raytheon Company's Financial Leadership Development Program. Very large company, and it's interesting because over 25 years I've worked my way down to smaller and smaller companies, and I'm the small private category winner. So I guess that kind of makes sense. But yeah, the last 10 years have primarily been in kind of Boston area tech, private equity backed companies. I spent time at TripAdvisor and Monster.com, and most recently Zoom Info. Got my MBA along the way, and just really like kind of the FP&A path of, strategic looking and forward looking, and kind of apply that to my role as CFO here at Centage. So that's kind of a bit about me.
Great. Well, thanks, Jason. And John Spackman, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and career path?
Yeah, thanks, Lindy, and thank you for the award and putting this together. This is really fun, and I'm honored to be here. In junior college, I realized that accounting was a major language of the world, and those who understood it and those who could speak fluently really had a skill that was highly valued. And so after 2 years of junior college, I was accepted to the Brigham Young University's accounting program. And I graduated with a bachelor's and a master's degree in accounting and took a job with Pricewaterhouse in San Jose, California, the Silicon Valley area. At that time, it was the dot-com boom, and I worked long hours. Got to audit the financial guts of large technology companies and small tech startups, everything in between. It was an education that I'll be forever grateful for. But after Pricewaterhouse, which was PricewaterhouseCoopers at the time, and earning my CPA, I took a job in internal audit, first with McClatchy Company and then with Franklin Templeton Investments. I really enjoyed doing internal audits more because I felt like I was a member of the team rather than an outsider, which is kind of how you feel as an external auditor with a public accounting firm. After several years, though, I was ready to not be on the road so much. I have 8 kids, so I wanted to be a little more present in their life. I took a job at BYU as an assistant controller, and I've been here 17 years. Right now, I'm the IT CFO and controller. I work directly for the chief information officer, who is a vice president here at the university. He and I work on the financial strategies for the university's IT operations. Just a little background of BYU. We have roughly 35,000 daytime students in 190 undergraduate majors, 98 master's programs, and 30 doctoral programs. We have students from all 50 states and from over 100 countries. But working in IT is really a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation. So it's pretty exciting. That's a little bit about me.
That's exciting. And John, tell us a little bit about your background and your career path, how you got to Cameo.
Sure. Thank you, Lindy. Yeah, congratulations to everyone on the panel. So I started my career actually out of college, is like in the valuation at public accounting at Crow. I did about 1 year of that. Like after my master's in accounting and my CPA, I identified valuation was not a niche market that I wanted to get into. Went back into audit. I started as like a staff, 2 years out of college. Worked 6 years in public accounting and audit, with one large public company. Mostly, most of my clients that were manufacturer distributing clients, private. And then after about 6 years, after your first busy season as a manager, identified partner path was not the route I wanted. I enjoyed communicating and talking to clients more about operationals and like process improvement, stuff like that, instead of kind of external auditors approach to assessing a company. So fortunately, I was able to get an accounting manager role out of audit at Echo Global Logistics, the large public company accelerated filer. I was there for just over 2 years until I was actually introduced to Cameo CEO by Mr. Brant Kucharski, who's here today, which is one powerful tool is always networking, which would be a significant advice for what you're seeking as a career, is always network, keep your options open, talk to everyone. But after an introduction, I met Steven, the CEO, on Christmas Eve for about 3 hours at a diner at the corner of Chicago and Orleans here in Chicago. Hit it off and finally started in February of 20. And similar to Jessica, 3 weeks later, after I started there as the first in-house accountant, we went full remote, and we've been full remote since then. So it's sort of a fun journey, being first in-house accountant. We now have a team of 4 or 3 underneath me. So we have been able to grow. We've been growing international and acquisitionally. So it's been a wild ride for just over 2 years here.
Great. Wow, that is a wild ride. Well, and someone else that's here with us today, Brant, has also been on a wild ride. And Brant, would you mind, as our 2020 national and enterprise winner, sharing a little bit about your background and with us? That'd be great.
Yeah. Like many folks, I did public accounting for a while and loved it. It was very hard to leave, but I had the opportunity to join Grubhub when there was, 30 people or so, and joined 10 plus years ago and kind of built them to go public. We went public in 2014, bought 15 companies, and then ultimately the company sold to a European company last summer in June. And since then, I joined a company that raised $500 million in the life insurance kind of technology space. We're backed by SoftBank, Sequoia, Excel, a bunch of great investors, and gonna probably do the whole thing again, go public maybe next year after, and have some fun.
That's great. Well, everybody's has really great careers, success so far. I would say, I'd like to ask each of you another question, and then we'll get into some advice. But just kind of starting with you, Brant, what would be, some of your keys to success, in your career so far?
I mean, I think the key is you have to be able to relate accounting to non-accountants, right? And you have to be able to take the complex and make it non-complex when you're talking to the CFO, when you're talking to people in marketing and technology, and kind of really, be able to relate with them, right? Because if all you do is talk technical accounting language, it gets lost in the message with people who aren't accountants. I think that's, pretty important. And second thing is, I think you have to be able to look 6 to 12 months ahead and start to really plan of what are the risks of this business as we're growing like this. What do I need to put in place today? What do I need to get ready for 6 months from now? That can be internal controls, future accounting policies, kind of planning for the IPO, and kind of other things like that. Just really make sure you're ready and not caught off guard. And, you really want to be proactive versus reactive.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, key proactive versus reactive. And I like what you said, take the technical and, get it into where other people that are non-accountants can really understand. I think with all of us being accountants in the room, myself as well, it's that's a skill. That's a learned skill, and so that's great. And I think John, you had a comment, Mazanti, about networking. It sounds like that was at least one of your keys to success, and you practice it. Do you have any other keys to your success in your career so far?
Yes. Keys to success. I guess I'd say to some extent very fortunate to have been in some of the circumstances that I was in. But I guess when I, as an auditor, I was volunteering for, I'd say, difficult audits, a public company versus like a private company. So, taking on the challenges to get that experience under my belt, which, 3 years later, after 3 busy seasons auditing a public company, identifying, hey, audit, is not the right career path for me. I was able to translate those skills into, an accounting manager position in corporate, where all of a sudden you're managing folks who have been doing corporate accounting, doing journal entries, reversing journal entries, things that you've never done before, which is, like unique concepts. And, you're just like, hey, you're able to like leverage unique experiences. So I guess one thing that came to mind just there was like, working on complex areas and volunteering, and, really, it does translate, because not everybody does get that experience or has the ability to choose yes or no when presented with it.
That's great. And yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe that's just even getting out of your comfort zone, right? Taking on a new, volunteering for something that may be a challenge, and, getting out of that comfort zone. So that's great. John Spackman, I liked what you said about in junior college, you were, inspired to have an accounting career. And I was too early in college. So growing up, this is just a silly story, but I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew I wanted to go to college. And I grew up in St. Louis, and where at the time, I'm dating myself, but TWA was headquartered in St. Louis. And I knew that I wanted to travel around the world. And I thought, well, with TWA being right in my backyard, like I could actually get a job there and like go around the world and travel. So that's what really got me into accounting. But I liked your story about, starting in junior college. And, I guess, do you have any, what would be some top keys to your success, in your career thus far?
Yeah, this was a thought-provoking question. But the first one is kind of a saying that I think about probably every day, and it's keep your house in order. Things tend to get complicated, things tend to get messy, and things tend to roll out of control unless you're always kind of keeping that house in order. And that would be probably my number one key for success. The others are be honest in all that you do. Listen and then listen. It's trying to be a listener. Be as transparent as you can be. Now, obviously, some things are confidential, and you're going to have access to things as a controller that not everybody needs to know about. But really, be as transparent as you can be. I like to always be a student and kind of bring that humility to every interaction. Maybe there's something I can learn from this. And then treat others the way you want to be treated. Those would be my keys to success.
That's great, John. So Jason, Paul, Nita, and Jessica, I'm just looking at you in order here. I'd like to handle the last question. I'd like for you all to give us a little piece of advice about others, because our audience is largely accounting people, aspiring controllers, or people that want to make a job move into the area of finance and corporate accounting. So for Jason, Paul, Nita, and Jessica, what advice would you give to others seeking to be a controller? And Jason, I'm looking at you now, so I'll just start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I would, folks have talked about the networking has come up, and I think that's so important, right? I think that lean on your network. And then to me, a side note to networking is also mentorship. I've had great mentors along the way, and I think that's a really great way to develop your career. And then my last point there is, keep in mind that I think everyone here would tell you is that we all owned our careers, and every single individual owns their careers, right? So have that plan, have your roadmap, and take the time to think about, like, not just what I need to do today, this week, to keep my house in order, like John said, but where do I want to be in 2 and 3 years, and what do I need to do to build my base so that I can get there? I think that's important.
You own your career. I love that. That's a great comment. So thank you for sharing that, Jason. And Paul, do you have any advice? I know everybody's been saying a lot of things, but maybe you have another nugget to share with our audience today. If not, you can ditto.
Yeah, Jason actually stole a little bit of my thunder, because
Okay.
it's been helpful for me through my career is having some great mentors and actually seeking out role models and really watching and studying how they do it. And so I've probably learned the most from that. But then I think, some other skills that I think as a controller, especially as business develops, that you need to develop are being able to sort of see around corners and anticipate where the business is going and what the company is going to need to support, that next stage, and put those plans in motion now. I think that's one of the things that's really been helpful for me.
That's a good piece of advice. Thank you for sharing, Paul. Nita, any other nuggets of information, advice that you could share with our audience today for seeking to be a controller or furthering your career?
Yeah, I think hard work eventually pays off. I would say treat others with respect, especially the people that may work for you. They can make or break you.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic, thank you. And Jessica, we'd like to hear from you as well. What advice may you have to give to others seeking a career, since that you've recently, moved a couple times here, so this might be a little bit more recent for you.
For me, I would say it's important, of course, to ensure you have strong technical knowledge, but also honing in on your people skills. The empathy, the compassion, the understanding. It's been even more important in the last 2 years with the pandemic and what so many people encountered over the last few years regarding illness and sickness and caregiving. So honing in on those people skills, because I'm a big believer that the success of my team drives my success. And if they're not successful, and I'm not. So I'm really ensure that I take the time to get to know them, what motivates them, what their pet peeves are, what empowers them. So ensure that time is spent on the people aspect of your job as well.
Well, I think that's really, really great advice, especially because most of us on this call today are right-brained, most likely, and to get, to go to the softer side and really perfect the softer skills and the people skills. I think that's really, really great advice. So thank you so much. Now I'd like all of our award winners to stay on, please, while we turn the mic over to Brant and have him introduce Brenna.
All right, as Lindy mentioned, a National Controller of the Year was selected from the winners of all the categories. I am so pleased and so excited to introduce you to our 2021 National Controller of the Year, Brenna Albert. Brenna, congratulations, well earned, and so excited.
Yay.
Great. Thank you so much, Brant. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations to all my colleagues on the call today. It's a very impressive group of individuals here, and I'm honored to be among them.
All right, Brenna, I got a couple questions about your background, but first, just want to point something out. Last year when I won, I passed out Grubhub gift cards to all the other nominees. So I feel that you should pass out your product to some of the other nominees as well.
Yeah, you'll just need to talk to the Illinois regulators about that.
Yeah, that'd be a problem, huh? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Little joke there. Okay, okay. Brenna, tell me about your background, your career path, and kind of how it all went down.
Sure. So I have a little bit of a non-traditional background compared to some others on the call. I actually think it has been helpful to me. sometimes we all take a different path to get to where we are. So I actually started out in education. So my undergrad degrees are in general studies, education, and mathematics. So I've always kind of been a quantitative person, but, really balancing that with, the softer side of things. So, I love Jessica's point about empathy and people skills and, really developing your team and seeing your team success as being yours. And that's really, foundation upon which I built my career to this point. So again, started in education, challenging time, back in the early 2000s, dating myself there, but a lot of change, going on in the field of education and at that point. So I actually made a personal move to a different state. Thought it was a good time to explore a field where I felt I could, make an impact and, have some more intellectual challenges. So I took many exploratory courses. I took things like computer programming and economics, finance, accounting, and actually accounting struck me. I really enjoyed it. One of the panelists made the point that, accounting is the language of business, and despite what many others think, accounting is not black and white. There's a lot of gray and there's a lot of interpretation and theory, and that's the aspect of it that I really enjoyed. So fortunate enough to get a master's degree in accountancy, and did not go the public accounting path. I actually had a mentor of mine very early on who's been very influential in my career. He was a director at a Fortune 500 company in Kingsport, Tennessee called Eastman Chemical Company, so spin-off of Eastman Kodak. And I actually was fortunate enough to start in their external reporting team. So not a typical place where you start, but I was several years older than many other people, kind of entering the accounting field, and really built my career in this little more theoretical area, like big picture area of finance and accounting. So technical accounting, external reporting, and that's really been the foundation, for me. And I've just kind of grown my role, again, being willing to make moves and change jobs, right, to seek out more challenges and kind of be a lifelong student.
That's phenomenal. Can you tell us about how you got to Cresco Labs and what that was like? I mean, really joining an industry that's developing, from, kind of the start of when everything kind of went down, and it's fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Cresco Labs, so we are a publicly traded multi-state cannabis company. So we're headquartered here in River North in Chicagoland. So I joined Cresco about 3.5 years ago, and it was about a month before the company was to go public via reverse takeover transaction. So not quite a SPAC, but something that's kind of an equally rapid go public strategy. And before Cresco, I'd actually been at Cushman & Wakefield, so that's large publicly traded company. But when I started, they were PE owned by TPG Capital and some others. I started 3 years before their IPO. So I'd gone through an IPO. I built the corporate accounting, technical accounting, and reporting teams for that. They'd recently merged companies together and relocated their HQ. So I kind of had this experience of building a team from the ground up. And kind of putting together the system, process controls, and building teams, to take a company public. So Cresco actually was not something I sought out. There was a recruiter friend of mine who reached out to me about the position. And, I had to admit that, entering the cannabis space, I was a bit skeptical at first, right? I remember joking with friends at the time, like, hey, am I going to be calculating margin for edibles and, pre-roll joints and things like that? This seems like kind of a strange thing. But when I did some research, I looked at the executive team, including who my boss would be, the CFO, and I was very impressed. The company had a really great long-term strategy, and cannabis is very interesting. We're limited in who our investors can be. Large institutional investors at this point will not invest in us, but the company was really top-notch from a management leadership standpoint. I still think we have the best management team in cannabis today. We recently announced a big merger. Will be the largest cannabis company in the world at that point. So for me, Cresco was an opportunity to join an industry that, to your point, Brant, was kind of in its infancy, right? Cannabis is an old product, but the regulated industry is very new. And beyond being part of the .com era, I couldn't think of another opportunity, right, where whether it worked out or not, I could be part of something that was part of history. Right, the legalization, professionalization, normalization of cannabis, that's what Cresco is all about. So I took the opportunity. It was certainly a challenge. When I started the company, we had 5 people in all of finance. Most of them were staff accountants who had recently been hired, staff and seniors. There was no controller before me. And bring it for full circle, we were a month before going public. So
Wow.
it's certainly been an interesting road since then.
You know, Brenna, I have a note here. Is that you have over 100 direct reports, 100 plus direct reports? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, not direct reports, but yes, people in my team. Yes, so I got 9 direct reports. Got a big leadership team. They're all fantastic. I'm very lucky to have all of them. And we have a large team, and part of that is, it's nuances in the world of cannabis. We're in 10 states. Every state is like a country. There's no interstate commerce. We need to have full vertical integration in all those states, right? So that just kind of multiplies, the staffing pre-automation that you might have, right? So I think we're at about a critical mass. We could, we're expected to be over $1 billion in revenue this year. When I started, we're at 45 million. I think we're about as large as we're going to get at this point, right? We'll go up a little bit. But we're really focusing on investing, in obviously strengthening the skills of our people, but really in a lot of process and controls, at this point in our life cycle, right? Making those big investments in ERP, et cetera, that we were too capital constrained to make before, to be frank with you.
Yep. One of the things I found at Grubhub was, you kind of get going, things are comfortable, you start doing your SOX controls, then you buy a company, and then you have a whole new thing to figure out all their technical accounting policies, all their internal controls, and get that situated. Then by the time that's situated, then you buy another company, right? Are you seeing that now a little bit, Brennan?
Certainly. I mean, my first year, our first audit, we had bought 5 companies. Some of them were small, just, bolt-ons, buying a, dispensary or something like that. This last year, we bought 5 companies. So yeah, we're always, looking for good opportunities. There's a lot of consolidation going on in the cannabis industry in general. And then we just announced a large transformational acquisition. So certainly there's a lot that, we need to plan for. And I love the earlier point that, we need to be proactive, always be looking at 6 to 12 months ahead. I've done a reorg on my team. I've moved people around in positions and, definitely want to retain great people in the organization, give them opportunities, but also make sure that the business is set up for success, right? And we're getting ahead of some of those challenges that are coming down the pipeline, because there are many of them.
Yeah, sometimes, the challenge of an acquisition from an accounting standpoint, I think is, you have everyone in your general ledger and you can hit a button to consolidate. Then you buy someone, it takes 6 months to get them over, fully integrated, right? If you're not just, doing some stuff, but, you have to consolidate them manually, and it's an extra step. And, it's like once you get everything together, it's, just flows, right? You consolidate, hit one button in NetSuite or whatever you guys use, Intact or whatever, Workday, right?
Yeah, definitely. One of the early investments we made was actually into a consolidation system. So fortunately, I did not walk into an amalgamation of QuickBooks or anything like that. No knock on QuickBooks, but we did have a full GL with some consolidation. We put a kind of top over consolidation tool over it because we were so inquisitive, right? And we had to have that opportunity to do flat file uploads and have, eliminations programmed and all of those things, or, things would be way more complicated. So, we do still have some different systems, but having that consolidation tool, I think, was a great early investment, as was investing in extra reporting software also is something that's really helped us out at this point, kind of doing those low-hanging fruit, although there's definitely effort involved doing some of those early software investments that we did have the capital for, have been very value add.
Well, it's good that you did it that early on and you saw the foresight that we talked about to kind of put in then versus, when it's too late and then you're trying to scramble, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right. And, we do still have, I think, some systems that are quite enterprise level. We're, continue to make investments in those, but, certainly, yes, we're seeing the benefit of some of those things.
Okay, and last question. Okay, what have been the keys to your success, and what advice do you have for people that want to be a public company controller, that want to grow from county manager, senior manager to controller? What advice do you have for people?
Yeah, and some of this we target a little bit towards women specifically as well. I did take a non-traditional path to get here. And, I think as women at times, we may not apply for a job if we don't check every single box, right? And that's something where I would just advise everyone, be willing to raise your hand, take on those challenges, have that confidence, right? And sometimes it may, I think everyone has imposter syndrome, right? I don't know if anyone's immune to that, gender regardless, but you have to be willing to live in that uncomfortable space, right? Like as accountants, we don't live in a black and white world, despite what people may perceive. We live in a world of gray, and especially those of us who take on these challenging roles, we've got to learn how to be uncomfortable. You may not have all the answers. You need to be willing to be a lifelong student and get answers from those around you. Really be inquisitive, be humble, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, for those who want to grow their careers, don't wait till they check every box, right? And you could be upfront, when you're interviewing, like, hey, this is everything I bring to the table. I bring capabilities to learn. That's one of the biggest things I bring to the table, right? Any new job, even if you check the boxes, is going to have a learning curve. So that's one thing. I kind of bring that approach to hiring as well. Again, I'm not, I didn't go to the Big Four and here I am. I definitely look at people's capabilities when hiring, not necessarily that they have specific experience. I think if we always look for the same laundry list of, hey, someone went to a Big 10 school and they have the XYZ, right? Like, we're going to get a workforce that maybe looks the same, right? We're not going to get a diverse workforce if you don't have a diverse set of criteria, to evaluate people. We need to look at whole people and their capabilities. And that's where I think my background in education has added value, is that I think about the capabilities of, of folks that I interview, people on my team, and I want to help them develop those, right, and leverage those. I don't kind of put people in a box, I want to help people grow from where they are. So, I think that ties into my keys to success, I think, again, I'll go back to Jessica's point again, even though we're all about automation and systems, it's really all about the people. People are the foundation of everything that we do. We cannot forget that. I think we've all learned a lot of hard lessons during the pandemic and the Great Resignation, that we need to be very intentional about developing people and engaging our teams, helping them feel valued, being proactive as leaders about giving them opportunities. It's something that I spend a lot of my time and energy doing, and it's well worth it. It's personally fulfilling to me. I have that background in education. It kind of feeds that. I went into a people-oriented field originally for a reason. I really enjoy it, but I think it's the best thing to do for the business, is really maintain that focus on people, So if you focus on your team, you keep them engaged, you make your boss's life easier. I think those are generally really good keys to success. And then also what I would add, and everyone's made great points, I would say be adaptable, and that for me includes responding to changing times, changing needs. Never did I ever think that at a post-startup company, we wouldn't kind of be butts in seats, right, in the office and working late and things like that. And it's like, we're a progressive company. Why did we think that way, right? We learned that lesson the hard way in the pandemic, but it was a lesson we needed to learn as an industry. Right, the younger generation demands flexibility, and it's unfortunate it took the pandemic to get there, but here we are. We always need to continue to learn, be humble, and learn from everyone at all levels of the organization. I think if you focus on that, you'll be successful.
All right, well spoken. Congratulations again. What an honor, and I'm going to turn it over to Lindy for some questions and answers next.
Thanks, Brand. And Brenda, congrats again, and to all our winners today. I did just want to toss something out, and just one final question here that I like to always, and I moderate a lot of our panels, I like to always end with sort of looking into a crystal ball. And, so if we looked into our crystal ball with our winners here today, what do you think, everybody, and I'll just toss it out, anybody can answer. How will the office of the controller be different in 5 years? Any thoughts?
So when I thought about that question, I guess something more timely with me, or like more present, is systems coordination, especially at my state, CRC, as well as like financial reporting automation, RevRec through NetSuite. Like, there's an enormous amount of complexity and time oriented, where I think at some point, although corporate systems, director of corporate systems may fall under CFO, data engineering is under engineering, and not as tight as I think would be required with like devoted individuals. So I think that the Office of Controller may open up to more of having data engineers, corporate systems under their umbrella, opposed to kind of sitting, you know, a different silo within the financial or engineering organization.
Yeah, we're actually seeing that at our Menino. You know, we're a CPA firm, but only part of our revenue is audit and tax now. About half our revenue is in consulting, and that's technology consulting. But we have built a growing and very fast growing business analytics data practice area. And it's, number one, it's for our own company, right? Our own firm. We're needing to analyze our data more and more and more and faster, right? And really hone in on the metrics and the KPIs that matter. But for our clients as well, because we're seeing, John, just what you said, you know, they're, you know, firms are seeing this as being more important now and living in the world of the Office of the Controller versus maybe in an IT area or something. So I totally agree with you there.
I just want to add to I totally agree with the automation. I mean, I've been at a lot of companies, and small and large, and in finance and accounting, there's just so many manual tasks everywhere I've been, right? You know, and I think that the next 5 years, and especially with kind of the tailwinds of the pandemic and people working from home, I think, you know, automation, integration of your different applications will be a big thing.
Yep, totally. Any other thoughts? Okay. Well, that's about going to wrap us up today. I do have another, just a little information about the Controllers Council for our audience. If we can get that slide up, there we go. We are a national community of accounting and corporate finance professionals focused on best practice resources, training in CPAE, peer interaction recognition, like our program today, and career services. So here's a bunch of links here. We are going to start in the next year with local chapters, and guess where we're starting? Chicago.
Nashville.
So yeah, we'll do Nashville next, Brant.
Okay.
So I know I really appreciate everyone's time today, our audience for participating, our winners here, Brant for jumping in and continuing to help us out with as our 2020 national winner, and Brenna, of course, as our 2021 National Controller of the Year. So many great insights into your career success. I wish you all the best of success moving forward, and thank you so much. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.